My name is Barbie. I'm 48 years old and I am a woman. So, my womb story, I started using the sacred wand back in June, and up until June, for the last, most of my life actually, but specifically the last 3 years, I started to show signs of perimenopause. My cycles were extremely off. So in March of this year, 2022, I had labs done and my estrogen was at 553, dangerously high. And the only thing that I've done different is been religious about using this wand. And I had my labs done last week and they are now at 53. They dropped exactly 500 points and I now have a regular cycle, very consistent, and my cycles have been 4 to 5 days. I'm not bleeding 12 days at a time like I was before, and I was in extreme perimenopause, and I don't know what shifted, but intuitively I feel like there's just been this overall balance of my hormones, my body. I don't know if this is going to be this gentle transition into menopause. I'm not there yet, but I know the last 4 months have felt more whole and more balanced than they have in so many years. Again, I can't throw 100% into the one, but it's the only thing that I've done different. And it's been exciting to share it with Emma and, send her screenshots because I track my cycle. And I've been able to kind of share this journey with her. I would describe my connection to my womb. It's almost like on a soul level, there's me and there's this soul womb. And this soul womb is this sacred hub that has created life and my children. And, there have been moments where I've been angry at this entity, this hub, this soul hub, for the disruption of irregular periods and hormones and intense bleeding. But at this point in my life, there's this just honoring and deep respect of this part of my body that almost has this life of its own, that has been able to create and hold these beautiful beings that I get to call my children. It is sacred. It's so sacred. And, I think in our youth, we don't understand that beautiful, essence, and we don't have respect for it as we do when we get older. There was a lot of abuse that I created at a younger age, just sharing it with people who maybe I shouldn't have, and just being neglectful and reckless. And so today, as a 48-year-old woman who has birthed 3 children, it's like I just want to hug that entity and that being and that hub of my body that I feel like has its own life force, that is so powerful and so divine, that can create and hold and nourish, these beings that I love so much. It's not like my intestines or my brain or my heart, carried these children, my womb did. So there's just this layer and level of deep respect and, just honoring of that part of my body. So it's sacred. It's sacred. It's like, there's this body and then there's this piece of my body that almost is its own thing. So it's like the soul in me, but then it's almost like a piece of my soul, that like hubs my womb, if that makes any sense at all. I would start with asking for forgiveness. I would ask my womb for forgiveness for the neglectful behavior I inflicted on it for years as someone of, I don't want to say ignorance, someone without the information yet, then I would thank it for all that it has done for me. Bearing these children and holding these children and keeping them safe and being such a sacred part of me. I would tell my womb that it was going to be okay, because there have been, I'm a cervical cancer survivor as well, and there has been, some outside pain and trauma, and I feel like it's all kind of connected, to my earlier behavior, not understanding and honoring the importance of this huge part of my being in my body. And then I would tell it, let's grow old together. It's you and me, like we got this. And just, become one of trusting and understanding and connecting and embracing, the second half of my life with my womb. What makes me a strong woman? I believe there are several aspects of this. I was gifted the journey of being a mother, and that hasn't always been easy. I have a child with cancer for 26 years, and he's, towards the end of his journey, and I think continuously showing up for this and for him and for my other children have forced me to grow and tap so deep within my soul. And there's this strength that resides in us all that I didn't know existed, that I've had to tap into to continue walking through this. A strong woman, we're all strong women. If you've been pushed to sit at the edge of the cliff for long enough, we all have to show up as those strong beings that we all are. We just don't know. We don't know that's in us. And I think just life experiences, it's overcoming so many obstacles, from addiction and abuse and childbirth and raising our children. It's like, all of those things have made me who I am, and it's not that I'm indestructible, because I break. I allow myself to break, but I don't carry it with me. And there's just this inner strength, and I'm going to bring God into this because I have to. I don't walk alone. And I feel that a lot of the strength that I find to walk through each day is from the divine. It's infused in me. It's the strength that I didn't know I had, but my soul has it, and my soul carries this body, and my soul is not weak. I've created the space to heal the trauma in my womb in a lot of different ways. I honor it. I do salt baths. Using the wand is part of that. It's a huge part of that process. It's, being, so consistent every Monday. It's this self-care. It's this act of self-love and self-care for this beautiful part of my body that is so important to me. Soaking in salt baths, meditating, all the little pieces of self-care are all connected to the feminine energy in me, this divine energy, from swimming in the ocean to making love with my husband. That's part of it, a monogamy of being with one person and respecting myself to commit to this one person. It's definitely, there's this whole package of self-love and self-care and honoring my womb. I think there's a taboo in our society of addressing, women's health and womb health, because there's this stigma around bleeding. I think that's a huge thing. I think men get really uncomfortable with women's cycles. I grew up in a household, 3 brothers, and all of them, didn't want to hear about it. I feel like it's something for centuries. It's been women had to go to the tent to bleed. The red tent was, it was like you're castrated and you have to go over here. So I think it's generational and ancestral, this story and this dialogue that, women are almost broken in a way when they're menstruating. I think a lot of it has to do with our menstruation and our menstrual cycle, and in different cultures and societies, it's like, the women have to stay indoors and hide away when they're bleeding. So I think it kind of started with that. And I don't think it's as much as a sexual thing. I think, sexual exploitation has been much more exposed than something so natural as the moon cycle of a woman. And I do believe it's this old story that we've carried with us, and it's something that needs to change. It's even my grandma's generation and my mom's generation, it's something that was not talked about, and it was done behind closed doors, and it's like, here's what you need to do and just do it over there and don't, and I think, there is this opening that's happening right now that, it's part of our body, and this is who we are as women, and, that's not going to go away. And it's like we can stand in our truth and honor that part of who we are. I have 2 boys, and I've always openly discussed my cycle to where sometimes they got uncomfortable, and I'm like, one day you're going to be married, one day you're going to have wives. This is something that you have to understand is totally normal. But to follow up and answer that question, I feel like this is an ancestral story that we've carried with us for generations, hundreds and hundreds of years. I don't know if it was ever openly accepted, where women almost feel damaged when they're menstruating. It's like a shameful thing. It's felt shameful. I know there have been times and years where I've felt shameful at that time. Like I'm broken, I have to stay indoors. I'm uncomfortable to be out and about and share my uncomfortableness with it. So I'm glad it's being addressed. Thank you for asking. I think we can help empower the younger generations of women by, sharing our stories and being honest and open and truthful. And, I know for my daughter, I have a 25-year-old daughter, and, her going through the change, when she was an early teenager, I made it very comfortable and open. We were able to talk about it, and I talk about, honoring her body as a temple. And I think that is so important. That's something that wasn't passed down to me. It wasn't passed down to my mom. I really had 0 womb knowledge. I was a young mom. It wasn't explained to me. It wasn't taught to me. None of this was openly taught to me. And I know, some women have had that experience where their grandparents or mothers have passed this down. But I think us just, empowering them to understand the beauty behind it, the beauty behind what their body can do and who they are, and not being ashamed to have your cycle. And for my daughter, I've shared with her my story with the wand, and she's fascinated. She wants to start using one because she has heavy periods as well, and just openly discussing how we can honor and love our bodies and not have to take a pill for everything. That is something I definitely, try to veer away from. And I think, knowing that the earth provides everything that we need to heal, and connecting, our bodies and our wombs to the earth and to plants, is it's so empowering and beautiful. So I think going back to empowering our youth is sharing this information and teaching them and providing the knowledge that, they have all the resources they need. I would like to say to young women connecting to their wombs, just the importance of honoring who you are, what your womb is going to do for you throughout your life, and just holding it and keeping it sacred. I reference like abusing our body, and I don't like the word ignorant. We just don't have all the information yet.
Like naivete.
Naive. We're naive. When we're young, we think we're invincible. We're naive. We do things that at one point later on down the road we regret. But so much of that neglect is neglecting our womb and who we are as women, and holding that power and keeping it sacred. So I think just really emphasizing the importance of how sacred this part of our body is, and how it is what defines us as women, and how strong we are because of this part of our body, that we can give life, we can carry a child, and we can give life. And I'm super connected to the moon. That's something that the last decade or so I've really understood the flow of my body and my cycle with the moon cycle, and teach that to young women to stay connected to their own bodies.